A lady has written that after watching Beat Diabetes, she was able to get her A1C from 7.9 to 5.9 and totally eliminated all her diabetic symptoms. And we'll hear from a man who's been a type 1 diabetic for 45 years. But only after watching this channel was he able to see tremendous progress in dealing with diabetes, and he tells how he's been able to reduce his daily insulin by over 50%. Wow! And we'll also consider why type 1 diabetics and type 2 diabetics both have similar, not exactly the same, but similar needs in dealing with their diabetic problems. Before I get to some previously recorded footage, I want to share a little about a comment that I saw after our last video. Now, this was a video when Benedict and I had a vegetarian day, and one man wrote that our portion size looked awfully small, and these meals looked to him more like snacks than meals. First, let me say that since I eat a fairly low-carb, high-fat diet, it doesn't take as much to fill me up as it used to. In my old days and with the old high-carb diet I used to eat, I would eat meals much, much bigger than the ones that I eat today. I think part of the reason for this is the fact that fat satisfies in a way that carbs never can, and you simply don't need to eat as much, and that's probably one reason people can lose weight so easily on a keto diet. I will admit that for our vegetarian day, I took less of the bean soup for lunch than I might have if I wasn't making that video. But since I peaked at a scrawny little 112 that day, when Ben and I had that same soup another time, I took a much larger portion of the soup along with some peanut butter on celery as before, and my peak that time was only 116. So this bean soup has really turned out to be a winner when it comes to blood sugar control and the spike that it produces. I believe one of the reasons for this is that we were not eating beans alone in that soup. If you noticed one of the clips of Ben making the soup, you saw that she added a significant amount of vegetables in the soup, so we were eating more than just beans. One key to be able to enjoy bean soup and keep your glucose low is to add some veggies, such as cooked cabbage, tomatoes, celery, and so forth. By doing this, you're not eating as many beans as you would if you were eating beans alone. And of course, by making sure you have enough broth, you dilute the beans a little bit further, and as a result, you can get away with eating a great bean soup and still be exercising excellent blood sugar control. Okay, I just wanted to clarify a couple of points. If you didn't see that video on our vegetarian day, I'll leave a link to it in the description. Let's go now to the previously recorded video. Okay, well, we're going to be looking at some more comments. I never get tired of reading the comments, and I pretty much read about every comment that is listed. Some I go through quickly, some I linger. This one is about type 1 diabetes, and he says, "Thank you, Dennis, for all the great information that I'm receiving. I'm a type 1 juvenile diabetic since the age of 4. Your information and your experiments, along with your lovely wife, Benedicta, have shown me a great deal of knowledge and better understanding of the function of our endocrine system. I'm now 49, so wow, 45 years as a type 1 diabetic." He says, "I'm an insulin pump user for many years. I've never received this type of information. I was able to decrease my insulin intake from 35 units in 24 hours to now 15 units in 24 hours. So that's a major decrease. Thanks to my Heavenly Father who has put you here to give out this type of rich information for us who are in the same boat. Thanks again. God bless you and your lovely wife." Well, this channel is not primarily for type 1s, but I can't help but feel, and I think this is evidence, what this gentleman has said, that it can help type 1s. What I know about type 1 diabetes, primarily I have learned not from my own experience, because I'm not a type 1, but I've learned it from reading Dr. Richard Bernstein's books and listening to some of his videos. He is a type 1 diabetic himself, and I just admire him so much. And basically his idea is bring those carbs down very low to about 30 grams per day. Spread them out over 3 meals, and then be very precise in how much insulin you give yourself, the fast-acting insulin, when you take your low-carb meals. And, that's a word that I think type 1 diabetics need to really get hold of, and that is precise. So many times, type 1 diabetics have hypos, which happens when you give yourself too much insulin, or they have their insulin levels go way too high when you give yourself not enough. So you've got to be very precise in administering the proper amount of insulin. And the thing of it is, you cannot be precise. Let me run that back again. You cannot be precise if you're eating high-carb meals. It's just going to be impossible for you to match your fast-acting insulin with your high-carb meals. There's just too many carbs to deal with. You just can't do it. But when you get those carbs low enough, and you can pretty well get a handle on exactly how many carbs you're ingesting, you can be much more precise. You can find out how your body responds and give yourself the proper amount of insulin. Sadly, the attitude of many type 1s is, well, I've got to take insulin anyway. Might as well enjoy my food. Might as well eat that candy bar. Might as well eat that cake. After all, I could just take a little more insulin and I'll be fine. Well, here's the problem. You won't be fine. Again, you won't be able to precisely match your insulin with your food. But secondly, it's just not healthy to be giving yourself that much insulin. Excess insulin is excess insulin, whether you get it from your own pancreas or whether you get it from injecting it yourself. We were never made to have too much insulin. Yeah, we need insulin for sure, but we don't need too much. We don't need excess insulin. So the people whose attitude is, well, I've got to give myself shots, might as well enjoy my food, that is just about the most foolish attitude you can take. Here's another comment about type 1s. This person says, the current school of thought for type 1s, which is eat what you want as long as you cover it with the proper amount of insulin, is, in my opinion, a fool's paradise. Well, I have to agree. This person says, I have 2 type 1s. One is 10 years old. I guess they mean 2 type 1 children, and one of them is 10 years old. If we follow the protocol they gave us, their A1Cs usually fall between 9 and 12. Now, that's sad. But this person, I'm guessing, is a mother, is saying, if I do the normal thing and just try to, give them so much insulin and don't worry about their carbs, their A1C is going to end up somewhere at 9, 10, 11, 12. Well, that's just unacceptable. And that's what she says. This is simply not acceptable. Even though we regularly see a dietitian, they even fall in with the bad advice. It is imperative for type 1s to eat low carb, healthy foods as much as possible with processed sugar eliminated from the diet along with proper insulin management. It seems as if the advice is being geared these days for more insulin sales and repeat doctor visits. Thank you for showing the vital key healthy eating and reading labels plays in the vital key, and that is that healthy eating and reading labels plays in a diabetic's overall health. Well, my personal feeling is, and my opinion is, a type 1 diabetic should be able to be just as healthy as a normal person. A type 1 diabetic ought to be in just as good a shape as a type 2 or someone who has no diabetes, because you can absolutely imitate your body's own ability to produce insulin by giving yourself insulin as long as you're matching it well. Your body's smart. Your body knows that when you eat a donut and you wash it down with a Coca-Cola, you need lots of insulin. But your body also knows that when you eat a hamburger patty and a small salad, you need very little insulin. Your body knows that. It is smart. Well, guess what? You have to be smart if you're a type 1 because your body can't figure that out anymore. Your body doesn't produce insulin anymore. So instead of your body being the smart one, you have to be the smart one. And the smartest thing you can do is forget that donut, forget that Coca-Cola, have those low-carb meals, and then match it as precisely as you can with the proper amount of insulin. I've even heard Dr. Bernstein say that sometimes he'll come up with a meal and he knows exactly how many units of insulin to give him, the fast-acting insulin, before that meal. He says, I'll just eat that meal for days and days and days because he likes it so much that he knows the exact amount. And when he tries a new meal, then sometimes if it's different from something he's had before, he may have to figure that out. But he knows enough to be very close, even on those first time around. But he wants to be precise, and he is precise, and as a result, he's now in his 80s. And I'm sorry, I know I talk about him too much, but I admire him so much. Okay, so type 1 diabetics, in some ways, you're not all that different from us type 2s in the sense that you still have to be careful. You still should eat low carb. But rather than depending on your pancreas, you're going to have to give yourselves those insulin shots. Okay, here's a comment from a lady. She says, I just got my blood work back. Due to the Beat Diabetes program, my A1C went from 7.9 to 5.9. My feet no longer hurt. I'm no longer thirsty all the time. I no longer have to take multiple trips to the restroom. I'm down 40 pounds. This is not a diet. It is now my lifestyle. And she says, thank you. Well, that's just beautiful. A1C is in the 5s. She's into the club. I love it. A1C in the 5s. You're doing pretty good, my friend. And my feet don't hurt. I don't have to I'm not thirsty. I'm not urinating all the time. All those classic symptoms are no longer there. And she says it's not a diet, and she's right. It is a lifestyle. Really, if you want health and wellness, and you tend to be diabetic, or you've crossed the line into diabetes, you have just one option, and that is to get your diet in line and make it a diet or a lifestyle for the rest of your days. You know, I don't ever say to myself, well, I wonder when I can start eating big old baked potatoes. I don't ever say that to myself. I don't ever say, well, I wonder when I can start eating pieces of pie. I know that for the rest of my years, and of course I'm getting up there, so some of you may have more years than me, that you're going to have to do this, but I've known it for years. You know, I didn't start out just yesterday on this low-carb diet. I've been doing it since around 2002. My problems emerged in 2001, but since 2002, when I started to get a handle on things, I've been eating this way, and I'm getting stricter and a little tougher on myself the older I get. Part of that is not my age, it's being involved with this YouTube channel and hearing so many powerful testimonies, and sometimes I get ashamed and I think these guys are doing better than me. So I've been more careful since I've started this YouTube channel. But I don't see it as a diet. I see it as, well, if anything, it's my diet, it's my lifestyle, and it is for good the rest of my years. The way I look at it, I had almost 50 years. I think I was around 48 at the time. I've had almost 50 years to eat whatever I liked and not worry about diet much at all. And I tried to eat healthy a little bit, but not too much. But from now on, and from 2002 on, actually, that's not the case. I'm just going to have to. And you've got to come up with that too. You've got to have that attitude. This is it for life, baby. This is it for tomorrow and next year and 5 years down the road and 10 years. My life, my health, my vitality, my relationships are too important for me to mess around and go back to the old way. I don't even think about that. And let me just say one more thing that makes it a little bit easier for us to take with this idea that this is the rest of our lives, we'll be eating this way. One thought that makes it a little easier is this. We're not really eating low carb. Here's a newsflash. Low carb is not really low carb. It's just normal carb. It's just the way we should have been eating all along. So we're not freaks. We're not doing something really, really weird. We're just basically getting back to eating the way we should have and the way our great-great-grandparents did long ago. So we're not doing anything all that radical. People look at us and how can you eat that way? And how can you live without soda? How can you live without this or that? Well, our grandparents did it, and we can too. So we're not radical. We're not really weird at all. We're just doing what's normal and right and proper. And admittedly, there are some things that maybe our grandparents could have eaten that we can't because we've crossed that line into diabetes. And once we get back, it's hard to go back to some of those things like potatoes and rice. Our grandparents probably did eat those things, although in much smaller portions than people do today. So, no, I ain't going back, and neither are you. All right, well, we're going to stop it at that. I want to encourage you to subscribe if you haven't yet subscribed, and hit that bell icon so you'll be notified when we post new videos. Also, hope you'll hit the like button, the thumbs up button, because that way YouTube will say, hey, this video must be pretty good. A lot of people are liking it, and they'll promote it to more people, and more diabetics will get to see it. All right, God bless. See you again.